So the question came up, how do you know which of these components in one of these drawer slide mechanisms is part of the rail, the runner, or the mid? Well, you almost have to have experience working with one of these things to know. But once you've seen one and played with it, it turns out to be pretty obvious. I've already done that with the left slide. I'll go through the process here on the right. So let's turn off the left slide thing that I created. Now let's create a new component here, and this will be the Salice 533 right runner assembly. So there we are. So all those components are in here. While we're here, let's create inside this 3 new components. We'll create the rail. We'll create the runner. And we'll create the mid. So there are 3. Now what we have to do is selectively figure out which goes into which one of these components here. So we know that this thing attaches to the side of the cabinet. It's highlighted here when I click on it. That's part of the rail system. So let's just drag that into the rail, and we're going to turn off the rail so that anything we put into it we don't see anymore. This thing right here is the soft close mechanism, and it's triggered by this little tab that's attached to the runner. So this soft close mechanism here is part of the rail because it doesn't move. So let's see which component that is. If we click on it, it's right here. We'll just drag that into the rail. So that's gone. Now, in terms of the rest of these components, let's see, what have we got here? This thing right here, this is not attached to anything. It is actually part of the mechanism that sits on the rail itself. So let's work on something else. We'll come back to that. So we know this is the runner. So let's just drag that into the runner there, and we'll do the same thing. We'll turn the runner off so we can see what's left. This right here, this is the mid. And how would you know that? Well, maybe only by experience, but I think you can see that it is one of the few pieces that is kind of isolated from everything else right there. So that's this guy right here. Let's just drag that into the mid, and then we'll turn off the mid so we don't see that anymore. This little tab is the thing that actuates the soft close mechanism, and it's part of the runner. And that's this component right here. So let's put that into the runner. And just by process of elimination, we'll get this thing resolved. So this contraption here, that is the mechanism that it's a plastic part that allows the runner to attach to the clip. And that's right here. And so that goes into the runner. This mechanism back here is the little tab system that has a pin that goes into the hole in the back of the drawer, and that's attached to the runner. It actually moves, it articulates to allow you to use anywhere from 13 to 16 millimeter thickness drawer sides and backs. But let's see what it is here. We'll just click on it. There it is right there. So that's part of the runner. And this is the pin that goes with it. That's also part of the runner. Now, what's left here, let's see. Let's turn on the runner. Okay, so these components here, there's a bunch of screws and stuff. Those are attached to the runner as well. So let's turn off the runner and see what's here. I think we ought to be able to just, if we're careful here, swipe over all of these and see what they are. All right, so it's from here down to here. So let's pick those from here to here. That's all these components, and those go into the runner. And I'm pretty sure this is part of the rail. Let's turn the rail back on. And it's these components down here. Yeah, if you look closely, you can see that they attach to the side of the rail. So let's take those three. There we go. We'll drag those into the rail. If we turn off the rail, yeah, looks like we've done them all. So let's go into each one now. We'll activate the rail and see what's inside here. So we've got all these components. First thing I want to do with the rail is ground this component right here. So there it is. Let's pin that so it doesn't move in space. And the other thing we want to do is create a rigid group within this rail of all of these components. So there's our rigid group inside the rail. Let's look at the mid. I think the mid only has one component in it. Let's see. Yeah, there's only one component in the mid, so we don't have to do any housekeeping there. There's a bunch of things in the runner that all need to get attached to one another. So let's turn off the mid here. So that's our runner assembly. Let's activate it and let's create a rigid group here between all these components. Great. And there's that joint. So turn them all back on. Now, just to keep everything kind of obvious what's what here, let's put some appearances on these. A on the keyboard for appearance. You know, if you've never worked with appearance, you could search here. Like if I wanted to paint them colors, so I just paint here in the search bar, and there are all the colors. Let's put let's put red paint on the runner. So if we just drag that over, we can put green paint onto the mid. How about that? And we'll put blue paint onto the rail. All right, so now we got a fancy Christmas tree here, or some unique country's flag colors. All right, now we need to establish some joints, and to do that we need to pick very specific components here. So we want to create a relationship between this component, which is here, and this component here, which is up there. All right, so we're going to do an assemble an as-built joint between this component and this component. It's going to be a slider, and it needs a snap point. So we'll just pick something on the face here, like right there. There we go. And this is a 533 millimeter slide, so might as well put in those minimum and maximums. So 533 is the maximum. That looks about right. Yeah. Okay. And we need to create a relationship between the mid component here and this same rail component over here. So let's do that. Assemble an as-built joint, and it's a slider between the mid, which is in green, and this blue component, which is the bracket that attaches to the side of the cabinet. It's a slider. We need a snap point. We'll pick the same one right there. And that looks good to me. We don't need to set any limits because the limit is with the runner, and we'll establish the relationship between those two joints here in the next operation. So we don't need these open anymore. So here are our two slider joints. We could right click on here and say animate joint relationship. There's the runner to the rail, escape. Here's this one, animate joint relationship. So there's the mid to the rail. All right, so all we have to do now is create a motion link between these two. Assemble, we want a motion link between these two. And it's 2 to 1, and it's already figured that out for us here. So when the red components here move 10 millimeters, the green component moves 5. And that's our relationship. So there we are. We did ground that rail in space, so we ought to be able to just do this. So there's our functioning slide. I'm going to save this off. I'll send you the file now that I'm done. Anyway, hope this helps.